Welcome to the Middle Ground. I'm Ohio Divided. He's Storm and Norman, and we're back for another Ohio edition of the show. And let me tell you, there is no shortage of drama in this great state of Ohio. Joe Burrow officially done for the year. 3 season-ending injuries in just 6 seasons. Everybody wants to blame the offensive line, and yeah, they've been bad. But that's not the whole story. The offense looks completely different when Jake Browning is under center, and we're breaking it down exactly why. On the college side, the Buckeyes have a major problem on their hands. Bo Jackson is no longer a question mark. It's time. He needs to be RB1. The true freshman is separating himself from the pack, drawing comparisons to Maurice Clarett, J.K. Dobbins, Travion Henderson, other legendary true freshman Ohio State running backs. And he's living up to that legendary name. We got the Bengals, we got the Browns, we got the Buckeyes, we got the Reds. And yes, Norm's can't miss gambling picks that you might want to start fading. A lot to get into tonight, so let's fire it up and get rolling. Norm, how we doing tonight?
Doing great. Ready to get into it. I will not speak for the endings of the show. I think it's just time to fade, and that's fine. But the picks are the picks.
It could be time to tail, though. I mean, gambling usually ends up in the end somewhere around the middle.
I mean, at this rate, we'll see. But, I'm taking the same process. You can't change the process. As the Sixers said, you got to trust the process. And that's what we're going to do.
Stick to it. Once you drop a couple, it doesn't mean it's time to freak out or anything. Stick to what you're good at. You know it works. So keep on keeping on. So let's get into it. We got the rundown tonight. Transfer portal, college football announcing they're eliminating the I think it is a spring transfer portal. They had a winter and a spring transfer portal. Just eliminating it down to 1 now. I don't mind there only being 1, but I absolutely hate the dates that they have it. January 2nd to January 11th is the only lone transfer portal for college football. This is stupid as fuck, to put it as bluntly as possible. If you look back to Ohio State's situation last year, you're in the middle of the college football playoff on a national championship run at that time. Why in the living hell does Ryan Day and his coaching staff want to be worrying about what guys do they need to bring in? We're going to go have tough conversation with kids that are currently here on a national championship run right now. That leads for awkward conversations. It can deteriorate kind of team chemistry as you're trying to get towards that ultimate goal of a national championship. I just think that this is yet another bottling of just college football and just the people who run the sport, the NCAA at the end of the day. I don't understand why you can't just wait until after the national championship game is over with. I think the date was January 20th of last year. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Norm? In my opinion, I think this is dumb as fuck.
I mean, I think it's twofold. I think eliminating one of the transfer portals makes a lot of sense, but like you said, they eliminated the wrong one when you have spring yet. It's like, yeah, they'll be a little behind the 8 ball, but I don't think that completely ruins someone's transfer to go there in the spring. And then another side of things, it's like I think I remember a lot of talk last year about like how the playoff went too long, as in like they should be starting it sooner, or having a different situation where we're not going all the way to mid-January. So I think this is in a point where, to those people, I think it makes sense where, I mean, if you're forced to have your transfer window be at that time, then I think the national championship would have to be the old timing of where the national championship was. Whatever the logistics would be to make that happen, I'm not sure, but I think it would have to be that, the Monday after New Year's. I think that's kind of their 2 options. Like, I just think, well, they chose the third option, which is the most wrong of the 3, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It only impacts the teams that are in the playoff, which I guess the counter argument would be, I mean, the playoff teams have the lower likelihood of needing or having people transfer, but that's not exactly true. We saw Pabula last year. Like a good player,
a good
that's
piece
a
to that team. Like he was
right.
a red zone quarterback. He played a role on that playoff team.
Yeah, and the thing is like, for a lot of positions, like, it may not be as big of an issue because, a number 2 receiver is still getting time, or a number 2 running back would be. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still going to have an impact on the playoff teams, and the playoff teams too. Like they're doing the playoffs and having to work the transfer portal because they got to plan for next year when their season's still going on. It just feels real counterintuitive to.
Yeah, like I
know.
think to last year, like last year's situation, you had Jack Sawyer and JT that were departing, and you had Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson that are clearly sitting there expecting to be the next two up. And if you look at Bo Atkinson, like a guy that Ohio State brought in at that position, could you imagine trying to go and have a conversation with Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson as you're in the middle of a college football playoff national championship run? Those guys are playing significant snaps on this run, and you have to go to them and tell them, hey, like, we need you guys to still buy in for this year, but we're looking at bringing in a guy that could push you guys for a starting spot next year. Like, in my mind, that is a great way to kind of cause some friction within a team that's ultimately trying to get to the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're bringing focus away from the playoff, like it just doesn't make any sense. And I know it's not a professional league, so they have different priorities versus the NFL. They're just gonna their free agency is gonna be right after the season, so they love that, so that people are going to continue to talk about it. For this, I mean, I get there's the classes situation. It just, let's be real. It's not an impact. If that's going to be the rule for the transfer portal.
We've seen Ryan Day adapt to the ever-changing landscape of college football, so it's not a doubt in my mind the guy's going to figure it out. He always does at Ohio State, so I'm not too awfully worried about it. I just think it makes things a little bit more difficult for Ohio State and then any other team that's out there. Aside from that, college football week 3, like they say about college football, any given Saturday, anything can happen. And did we ever think after 3 weeks we'd be sitting here looking at Clemson 1-2, Notre Dame 0-2, UCLA, Nico? You had him and UCLA's quarterback basically change spots. You get to a point where UCLA's sitting at 0-3, and you get to a spot where Tennessee took UCLA's quarterback, and they are playing in a ranked matchup at home and nearly knocking off the SEC power of the last few years in Georgia. Just another wild week. What'd you see this past weekend, other than the few that I mentioned there? If you have any comments on those games.
Well, I was just going to add Tennessee blowing the game. Should have won.
Hey, Kirby and his bunch just find a way every time. They find a way.
Yeah, well,
he harps on being resilient. He harps on being resilient, and his teams do it week in and week out.
Yeah, I understand, but anytime there's a game-winning kick within range, it feels like it's handed to you whether you're resilient or not. But anyway, I mean, once that kick was missed, it felt pretty obvious that Georgia was going to win in overtime, which they ended up doing. Looking across, I think we talked about this last week, but I just wanted to talk about DJ Lagway. I watched that entire game for God knows why.
5 picks, right?
5 interceptions. And the thing is that's incredible
tough
about it is if you look at the statistics from just an overview perspective, Florida was playing better than LSU. If you're looking at first downs, yards, I think it really just comes down to LSU. Yards per play. Like if you're looking at Florida ended with 23 first downs, LSU had 10. So LSU had more big plays, I think was a big part of that. But I mean, the biggest thing is Lagway, 5 interceptions, can't have it. And at the end of the day, it's sad because Florida is it screams like the setup of the Cleveland Browns of the college ranks because their defense looks legit, but I'm not sure it matters. And they're going to be playing. I mean, they're playing for a bowl game at this point. I mean, if you're looking at Florida's schedule the rest of the way, it doesn't get any easier. The 4 of the next 5 weeks, they play a top 10 ranked team. And then
they're going to be underdogs in every one of those games too.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be an underdog in every single game they play. except for Mississippi State and Kentucky. And I mean, this week they go to Miami. Following week they're home against Tech, or not the following week, but after a bye they're home against Texas. Then they go to Texas A&M, home against Mississippi State, home against Georgia, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, home against Tennessee, home against Florida State. I mean, they're playing an absolutely brutal schedule. They lost. I mean, I think that USF game, I mean, just rings like I think it took all the mojo they potentially had coming to this season, and they were somehow flatter from an offensive side in this game than they were in the USF game. I mean, just a really disappointing team. DJ Lagway was someone I was looking at as, you know, potential Heisman winner this year.
That ain't happening.
He's hopeful that he can hold on to his job by the end of the year with how it's been going. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's going to be under fire the entire time with, you know, the schedule we've got, you know, the schedule we're talking about. So that was just one thing that I was like, that's you know, super depressing from the defense side. But I mean, Florida is I think we might be seeing the end of Napier here shortly.
What were your thoughts of Brian Kelly's post-game press conference?
Give me some context.
You didn't see it?
I don't recall. I mean, I think you're going to jog my memory because
you wouldn't remember it if you saw it. And basically, he just started getting questioned about their ability to run the ball. I think it was something about their third down offense or something, and he crashed the fuck out on the reporter. It was the most like bitch-made energy I've ever seen out of a head coach. Like, just wild. I'll send it to you after the show. It's quite funny. Aside from that, I mean, last week we talked a little bit about the development or lack thereof for DJ Lagway, and I think it only just rang even more true this week. I mean, 5 picks, and I think I was listening to another podcast. A lot of that came off of just base defense. I think all 5 picks came off of just base defense. It wasn't like he was getting blitzers in his face. They were sending blitzers off the edge or anything to kind of speed him up. It was rushing 4, base defense, sat back there, and like he's clearly underdeveloped, hasn't taken a step from last year after a really good freshman year, and like a lot of people, like you just expected more. And I think you can say the same thing with Klubnik at Clemson. Like, who would have thought going into this year, a lot of people had them as a national championship favorite, but Haynes King and company, they go to Georgia Tech, and they give it to him. Haynes King is one of the best quarterbacks in the country whenever he's playing a top team. Like, he's just the type of quarterback with his team you never want to count out. We've seen him play in some really big games as well. But Clemson side of things, like, that is one of the more interesting or just shocking stories of college football this entire year. You thought this was going to be a year that Dabo was going to bounce back, get back to his ways of 2016, 2018, whenever he was running college football. But they're in an uphill battle. It's going to be tough. We talked about them potentially getting in with that ACC slot. I don't know if they're done losing games, first off. And second off, they just lost an ACC game.
Yeah, that's why I was so confident in Clemson because of it being an ACC game. And I think the biggest thing now is they don't control their destiny at all anymore.
Not anymore.
Because they only play Florida State. They don't play Miami. So, you know, if they played both of them, you know, if they beat both, then you get the tiebreaker between those two, and then if Georgia Tech really does run the table, you're playing them anyway. But they don't have that option. So pretty much, I mean, obviously you have to beat Florida State, but they would need Miami to beat Georgia. They'd need Georgia Tech to lose 2 games to have that happen now. And
Georgia Tech's schedule is very favorable down the stretch.
Oh, maybe, yeah, it is. I mean,
like, they might not lose another game until Georgia. Yeah, and it's not a conference game. And they almost beat Georgia last year. And Georgia doesn't. Yeah. I don't know if Georgia's better than they were last year. I'm not very high on Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, I mean, they feel pretty similar to what they were last year, honestly. Like, I don't have a strong enough take on them one way or the other. But the thing is Georgia Tech not having to play Florida State or Miami. I mean, the door is wide open for them to not only get to the championship, but see who makes it out of the gauntlet with Miami and Florida State, and be standing there at the end. I mean, their schedules. I mean, I'm like shocked at who they don't play. Because as I'm looking at this and trying to compare where everybody's at, they don't even play Louisville either. So they don't play Florida State, they don't play Louisville, and they don't play Miami. So probably, I would say a decent chance. 3 top 5 teams in the ACC they don't face this year.
And that's not good when you're starting 1-2, and one of those losses is the ACC. And you expect Miami, saying Florida State.
Georgia Tech's primed.
Oh, Georgia Tech. Yeah.
Yeah, Georgia Tech's primed because they don't play anybody.
But Clemson doesn't play Miami or Florida State either, right?
They play Florida State.
Okay. So I'm taking Florida State right now, just 3 weeks into the season. So they may be looking at at least 3 losses by the end of the year, with 2 of them being ACC losses.
Yeah, no, I'm too locked in on Georgia Tech here because they don't even play Cal either. Which Cal, I know their quarterback's a freshman, but they've looked really good to start the year. They don't even play Cal. Like, they play basically the bottom barrel of the ACC. They have Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, and Pitt.
It's
Pitt not good at home.
It's
Boston
Georgia
College
Tech.
Just lost to Stanford.
It's Georgia Tech. They're going to stumble somewhere, right?
I don't think so. I don't think they play a team good enough to make them stumble. I really don't. Their toughest one would be at Duke or at NC State. I'd say those are the 2 games, maybe. But I think it just circles back to Haynes King, and
he's him.
If they can run a fake pitch against Clemson with their 4 first-round projected guys, I would imagine that they should be able to do that just as well against Duke and NC State.
Yeah. A lot of headlines in college football in week 3. I'm sure we're going to get even more in week 4. It sucks that Ohio State has a bye, but there's plenty of big games out there that we'll get into later, as Norm has his picks coming up that you may want to just fade. NFL week 2. Colts still haven't punted. The Chiefs are 0-2. Tough start for Ben Johnson, 0-2 there in Chicago. What stuck out to you in week 2 of NFL, Norm?
It's hard to not start. I know we touched on it with Burrow, and we'll get back to it. I still think that's the biggest news, by a large margin. I think secondly, I think the Bucks on Monday night, I'd say they're probably I'd say them and the Chargers are probably the 2 biggest stories right now. Bucks, they're playing in a NFC South, which I think their competition's the Falcons. They beat them week 1. They go into Houston on Monday night, win that. I'd say the Bucks very primed. Chargers, on the other hand, also Monday night, go to Las Vegas, beat down the Raiders, who, a lot of people were like, oh, the Raiders are sneaky. No, they pretty much dominated on the defense. I'll turn it back on you. What'd you take away from this week?
Basically everything you hit on. Obviously, Burrow, that is the one thing that is obviously, if you follow me on X this week, been on the top of my mind. A cause for a shitty fucking week. It basically ruined my entire week. It ruined my Sunday. The other storylines and shit that are out there are awesome. I love watching the NFL and shit, but I just mentally didn't really give a fuck, if I'm being completely honest. That was ultimately the one thing that just stuck in my head, and I'm going to get into it. I have plenty to say about it later. But yeah, you obviously see a Emeka Egbuka. You talked about a little bit about the Bucks. You couldn't have picked probably a more perfect spot for him to land, with Baker Mayfield working alongside Mike Evans. Like, he's going to be featured in that offense, and I think he is 100% slotted as of now to be the offensive rookie of the year. We'll see. There's a lot of ball to be played and whatnot yet. But he's going to be an absolute superstar, and he's in the right system to kind of kickstart his career. But other than that, it's really, for me, it's the Burrow shit, which I'll get into.
Yeah, just to say one team I forgot, because I think there's 4 2-0 teams that, not including the Eagles, that I think have kind of stood out so far to start the year, would be thrown in the Packers in there as well. Because I think just their defenses look dominant. I mean, there's a lot of 2-0 teams this year. But I mean, for the teams that are a little more not surprising, but the 2-0s, I believe, is how I'll phrase that, to kind of continue their seasons. I think those are the ones that we may not have been talking about to start the year that I think are the interesting ones. I think the Colts are the one that I think it's more so just interesting because they haven't punted yet. I don't know if I necessarily believe the Colts are going to continue this trend.
I don't believe in them.
But yeah, I mean, you kind of get lucky in the Broncos win, and then week 1 you beat up on the Dolphins, who seem a little broken right now. They're playing all right tonight, but just they seem wrong at this time. So it's like I don't really know how much that means anything. But yeah, I mean, I think by week 4 or 5 we'll have a better picture on, you know, who's the real deal. But just for future projections, I think it's Chargers, Packers, of teams that we weren't talking about really going into this year that have a chance maybe making a deep run. And I think the Bucs are the team that I may not necessarily believe in for making a deep run. But to me, it could just be simple bias. I have to be partially anti-Bucs because it would kill me to see Baker Mayfield hoist the trophy.
Yeah, that'd be tough as a Browns fan. So, yeah, only 2 weeks in the NFL. I think the 2 most impressive teams for me to this point have been the Packers and the Chargers. I think they both have elite defenses with really good quarterbacks, really balanced offenses. So I expect both of those teams. I expect them to be good, but I mean, obviously the Packers made the Parsons deal late, but I think that they are legit Super Bowl contenders, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the NFL plays out. I don't think the Bengals are a legit 2-0 team, but I'll get into them a little bit later. Now on to the Cincinnati Reds. And the funny part about this was I didn't even have to change the graphic from last week because they've been 2 games back of the wild card for about 2 months now. Tonight, Hunter Green, 9 innings pitched, 1 hitter, and a 1-0 ball game. Doesn't it feel good to win a 1-0 game for once? If you think all the way back to, what was it, April, May time when they lost 3 1-0 games in a row? Feels pretty nice to finally get one. Reds, 2 games back again, 9 games left, 3 against the Cubs, 3 against the Pirates, 3 against the Brewers. We'll see what happens. I'll have more to say after the end of the year. I don't have a whole lot to say right now. I think Sal Stewart has been an upgrade, kind of brought some life to this offense. Ellie De La Cruz is not himself, hasn't been himself since the beginning of July. I don't even care about the home run numbers. It's just, I mean, everything from hitting to fielding, like, I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's going through shit. He is not the Ellie De La Cruz that we all know. He has a league-high 25 errors at this point. His WAR, I believe, is down about 2.5 points from what it was last year even. I don't know about this Reds hitting coach, and I know a lot of these hitters and whatnot had these issues before Valleca even got in the city. But and with the Reds ballpark and things, I understand the approach of, like, especially for a guy like Ellie. You got to make more contact. You struck out at an insane rate. We got to find ways for you to put the ball in play. But it almost just feels like he's focused so much on just putting the ball in play that he's sacrificed everything else that's made him great. And that's driving a ball gap to gap. That's hitting a ball 500 feet into the fucking river. Aside from that, his stolen bases totals are down about 20 bags from what it was a year ago. So, like I said, Ellie, insane talent, going through a lot of shit right now. Another year of leading the MLB in errors. I will have more to say after I see how this team finishes, so I don't want to get into a whole lot right now. But 9 games left, 2 games back, been 2 games back for 2 months now. Let's see how the next week and a half goes.
So the question I'd pose is Reds finish this out, counting the win tonight. They end 7-3. Don't care where the wins and losses come from. Miss the playoffs.
Say at that time, I want to wait to see before I go off on a tangent. I am sick of hearing about the young guys. I'm sick of hearing about the future. At some point, you got to do it. And it just adds another year to it. But like I said, give me another week. Give me another week and a half to see where they finish. But yeah, I mean, cool. They ended the year 7-3. They won some games. Like, yeah, I guess you have some positivity to roll into a high note for next year. But I'm ready to see some fucking playoff baseball again. Like, this is fucking ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I think the thing that's the most depressing side of it is the pitching staff is so primed to, like, once you're in the playoffs, like, anything can happen. And obviously pitchers, like, that's when they really take over. And a night like tonight, Green locking in, and I feel like that's kind of how he's been most of the year. And in his post-game press conference, he talked about how, in the past he felt like he'd been dialed in, and then, there was just something about feeling too good, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So that's why he's like, I was just stayed locked in, not worried about what's going on, and just focusing on the pitches ahead. And I think him with a mindset like that, he's Cy Young level good. We've talked about that in the past. But the thing is all the other guys as well. That's like, this pitching staff is ready to roll. And I know they are all young and under control, but I think this offseason, regardless of making the playoffs or not, the pitching staff played too well to do nothing with the hitting. So whether that's adjusting guys we have, moving guys we have to, whether that's packaging, I don't know. I don't want to say names yet, like speculate like you were saying, but if it takes packaging dudes, to open it up to sign someone, packaging to, trade for a bigger name, I think they got to make that move now. I personally liked the trade deadline. We talked about that. It was going in without going all in. But this offseason, I think, is a little bit different for you can play the small market card on paying the premium at the trade deadline. But once the offseason comes and you have the pitching staff playing that well, it's going to take something. And, the part that sucks is I'm afraid it might turn into one of these high-end pitchers that's getting dealt. And I got a feeling it won't be one that we'd want to be dealt. But at the end of the day, there needs to be another stud of bat in this lineup because there's just not enough there right now. And that's been the problem all year. I mean, today, we look at today, they won 1-0.
1-0.
Yeah. I mean, that's where it's like, I think we've talked about the pieces being there, and I get it, but it does feel like they're primed to make that move. So we'll see if they're gonna do it or not.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep reverting to that. They have 9 more games left. I don't want to say a whole lot at this point. I want to wait to see how the season shakes out. The only thing that I'll leave you with is I would hate to see this team miss out on the playoffs with this starting pitching. I would hate to see this team miss out on the playoffs with this starting pitching. Any last remarks on the Reds before we see how the last 9 games go, Norm?
No, it's just a big weekend. I think you take 3 out of 4, and I'm feeling solid. I think to have a chance to get there, I think 7-3 counting today is like the average of what they'd need. I think it'd be more like an 8-2, 9-1 to lock it in. Obviously, you could always have the Mets falling off a cliff, but I mean, there's just too many teams around there right now. I mean, they're tied with the Diamondbacks. The Giants are right behind them. I mean, it's all too close for them to be fucking around. So, I mean, I think it's got to be an 8-2. Which, I mean, the positive side. Ideally, we could have the Brewers lock up the division. So maybe we get just, you're not going to get different lineups, but maybe just lack of focus. I think that probably helped us tonight with the Cubs locking in their playoff spot last night. Any of those little things, little mental things that we can have an edge, I'm taking them all. So maybe that's us beating up on the Cubs a little bit here, and then the Brewers locking it up right before we go to Milwaukee. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to hold out on hope because it's a 162 game season. And we're at the end
on things that I say, because I'm probably going to just start talking about this and definitely push back if you don't agree with anything I'm saying. Basically, is what I'm trying to get at. I wanted to do some.
Gotta cook.
Yeah, I wanted to do something like Sunday night, like a show just by myself to kind of just talk through this, because I was fucking pissed. I was absolutely fucking livid. Basically, from the time I heard that it was a turf toe, surgery was required, it's going to be 3 months, all of the information that came out late Sunday night into Monday night, I wanted to do some kind of show, but I knew at that point my emotions were running high. I didn't want to say some things I really didn't mean. I didn't want to say some things that were out of line. So I opted to wait until tonight so I can kind of gather my thoughts, calm down a little bit for the most part, and really kind of try to look at this from all different sides. So just to start from the top, Joe Burrow, left toe, turf toe. He's going to miss the season. I know the report came out that they said 3 months. I've talked to 2 physical therapists, both in spaces on Twitter. Basically, anytime you cut skin or any kind of lower body injury, the norm is that you are probably going to start running 12 weeks post-surgery. Surgery for Joe is tomorrow. 12 weeks from now will be right before Christmas, about a week before Christmas. So at that point, you have 3 games left. And that is not talking playing. That is simply him starting to jog again. Now, they did say there is scenarios where he could potentially play through some pain. There is some situations where maybe the Bengals get into the playoffs. Maybe he comes back at that point. Who knows? But if you're Joe Burrow, are you trying to hurry yourself back out there to risk yourself again for another injury? I myself probably am not. Now, the lazy take, I guess you could say, or the obvious take that you're going to hear from the national media, you're going to hear from people who aren't Bengals fans. They went out, immediately signed Ted Karras, immediately signed Alex Kappa, your center, your guard, and then later on they signed La'el Collins, who was a proven right tackle from Dallas. Now, La'el Collins played fantastic through 2022, the same year they went back to the AFC Championship game and lost by 3 points or whatever it was to the Chiefs on a last-second field goal. But you can't control the fact that the dude tears his ACL on game 12 or game 13 late in that year. You can't control the fact that Jonah Williams did whatever it was that he did in the playoffs. So you're down both tackles. You can't control any of that shit. After that, they went out and they got Trent Brown, another proven tackle to shore up that spot. They went out and signed another guard. So, for those of you that say the offensive line is the issue, yes, I agree. They haven't been great. But to say that the Bengals have been cheap and they're just completely just letting Burrow out there to die is 100% fucking false. They have made, through Burrow's tenure, I would guess they have probably brought in and signed 5 offensive linemen to fill holes. The second after they made a Super Bowl appearance, their first 3 calls were bringing in free agent offensive linemen. They've spent draft picks on offensive line. These guys were proven guys coming in whenever they signed these guys. I think a lot of the issue, if you want to point to anything, is their inability to identify and draft offensive line talent. You go through, there have been 8 draft picks since Joe Burrow has been in Cincinnati. 2 of them are starting right now. And the funny part about both of those 2, Amarius Mims, starting right tackle. Guess when they drafted him? Last year. Dylan Fairchild, starting left guard, came out of Georgia. Shows a lot of promise early on. Guess when they drafted him? This past year. My issue is you have the smallest scouting department in the entire NFL, and you can't draft, whether it's offensive line, defensive line. Those have been your 2 biggest weaknesses through the Joe Burrow area and even before his time. That, for one, is your number one issue. You can't draft, you can't identify talent because you have the smallest scouting department in all of the NFL. The second part of this is the Bengals offense. Joe Burrow is the type of quarterback, you're paying the guy $55 million a year. So you got to kind of do what he wants to do or what he's comfortable with. Like if you're going to give a guy $55 million, you're going to do and run the type of offense that he's comfortable running. But what Joe Burrow's offense looks like, and it's probably not 100% Joe Burrow. Zach Taylor is obviously very heavily involved. Dan Pritchard, the offensive coordinator, is very heavily involved. But they designed this offense around Joe Burrow and what he likes, how he likes to operate, how he likes different schemes that he likes. And what that looks like for Joe Burrow is sitting in shotgun, probably, I don't know this for a fact, 90% of the time at least, diagnosing what the defense is doing pre-snap, and audibling in and out. You can see on screen here, when Joe Burrow is the quarterback, they are last in the NFL in running screens. They run screens 9% of the time. When you're sitting in shotgun, it's extremely hard to run the ball consistently. So what does that do for NFL defensive linemen? If they know that the run game is very low threat, if they know that they're probably not going to run a screen, guys like Myles Garrett, they are just pinning their ears back every single snap and just trying to go kill Burrow every single play because they don't have any kind of creativity that keeps them honest. If they, like, their longest rush this year is probably, I don't even know, they may not even have a 10-yard rush this entire season yet. So, if you're a defensive lineman, you're just trying to go fucking kill the quarterback every single goddamn play. And that's why, as soon as Jake Browning came in, and a lot of people noticed this in 2023 as well, you saw a lot more under center snaps. You saw a lot more running game under center. You magically go from being last in the NFL in running screens to second in the NFL in running screens. And that's why you had these brain deads out there saying, well, I think Jake Browning might actually be better than Joe Burrow. No, it's the fact that it's the offensive scheme that they run. They run a different scheme whenever Jake Browning is in the game that is better protective of the quarterback because you don't have a defensive line that can just sit there and pin their ears back every play and just try to go kill the fucking guy. Now, moving forward, Joe Burrow has to kind of eat his ego a little bit. He clearly is a guy that is very into himself. He's very confident. He is a very confident athlete. He has to be willing to adjust. He has to be willing to go to do more of the things that Zach Taylor wants to do. Getting under center, running the ball more consistently, running some of these screens, putting guys in motion more. I think they're like last in the league in putting guys in motion. Not that that probably has a lot to do with protecting the quarterback, but you still see the most successful teams in the NFL having guys in motion almost every single play. Go watch the Green Bay Packers. You will rarely ever see a play where There isn't some guy somewhere going in motion. So Joe Burrow has to be willing to adjust moving forward seasons. The good part is Joe Burrow is more of a psycho and more of a competitor probably than Andrew Luck, and probably didn't have a Stanford degree where he can just say, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm going to go live the normal life and go do my thing. Joe Burrow is way more of a killer competitive mindset than Andrew Luck was. So you know damn well he's not going to retire next year. I think, yes, the offensive line is an issue, but the two biggest parts of this that I think are as big of an issue as any is you've been fucked through the years because you can't identify talent and you can't draft talent, and you're screwing yourself in just how you run the offense and not how you run the offense because they had one of the best offenses in the league last year, but how it protects you as the quarterback in the offense. Norm, your thoughts?
Oof. So I'll just say some notes. Some are counterpoints. Some are just disagreements. So I'll just start from the top. So we're talking. So obviously the Bengals cheapness. That's been the talk of the town for
on a lot of these things, like when it comes to the player. But when you point to them being cheap, it is definitely more things like within the offices, scouting, like not having a real general manager, just having a guy who's the vice president of football operations and he is the general manager, basically giving him two jobs into one. That is where the cheapness comes into play.
Which I'd argue it is almost more cheap than the players, because players, there's a salary cap. Like you have to spend so much money. You can't just carry over $500 million every year or whatever. And also your scouting department, your GMs, they're making significantly less money than your players. So to me, it just doesn't make any sense from an outsider's view of why the corners are cut in places like that when the money isn't that crazy. Like it's not like scouts make $1 million a year.
Right.
Like I would guess they're probably six figures, and some probably are five. Like I don't, and it honestly be as much. It's almost like if you're like an intern doing it for free at Google versus getting paid because, well, I'm interning at Google, so the end result, of putting my time in, is going to work out better for me, similar to like a scout. Screens would make a lot of sense to that because people are so keyed on, the pass or whether it's draws or whatever, a little bit more, deceptive passing or quick passing makes a lot more sense. I understand you have those guys, but those guys going downfield and you have, just a tight end screen to Fant or whoever, utilizing those guys as, and I'm not saying they don't do it at all, but screens sometimes act as those ways of utilizing those guys as, pawns for, sacrifice or whatever to have, another guy making the play, whether it's Brown on a screen or Fan on a screen.
But even then, Burton. It's not even the fact that you're mixing it up. It's the fact that you're keeping the defensive line and the guys that are blitzing honest.
Exactly.
Like that is the whole point of running screens, is because when you got defensive linemen screaming downhill on a screen, that screen is hitting perfectly. When you have defensive linemen that sniff the screens out, that's when screens don't work. Unless, obviously, you're throwing like a jailbreak off into the flat and things like that. But like the screens we're talking about are dump offs to the running backs, dump offs to the tight ends. But what that does is it protects the quarterback, it keeps the defensive line honest, and it makes them think about other things that are going on other than, I'm just going to go try to murder Joe Burrow.
Right. And the thing is it works twofold. Is it's an easy pass. So for guys like Browning to just walk in, it's like, well, it's easy to call a screen, because screaming, it's not a hard throw. It's just about timing. So if you have a good enough backup quarterback where, they have enough feel for the game to understand the timing of a screen, hey, we can run a billion of these motherfucking things because, You know, Jake Browning, he understands the game enough to be like, hey, you know, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, get it out, or whatever it is on, you know, the specific screenplay. So it's like, it's almost like, and that's why it's like, I mean, and I think it makes a lot of sense to put some of this on Joe too, because it's like sometimes easier throws make those deeper throws even easier. And I mean, I understand you got Jamar and T, but I mean, I think this whole situation would open it up more for them to begin with, because you're attacking the middle of the field more. Um, I mean, like I'm not as familiar with Bengals things as you are, but from an outsider view, it feels like the Bengals are going outside a lot and not utilizing the middle of the field a lot. When
Absolutely.
if you utilize both like middle and outsides, those outsides are going to be a lot more open because they have to respect, you know, Gesicki or Fan over the middle or Chase Brown or whoever it is. And that just only opens it up more for
or just move Jamar to the slot and get him over the middle. We saw them do that halfway through the year last year, and that's really whenever Jamar took off.
Yeah, and I mean that's just part of creativity, but I mean I just think, you know, we're professionals, blah blah blah, but this is a fucking professional football league. As easy as you can make something be, why wouldn't you do it?
Well, I think that you also bring up a good point too, because you usually see the Bengals take 2 to 4 weeks every single year to kind of get going and get their offense really firing on all cylinders.
Complex. Our playing simple. It's like you said, we're gonna fucking destroy Burrow. You know, and it's like when you're able to have the defense simplify it, and you're not really, you know, mixing it up enough for them to be worried about anything. I mean, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. Yep. And do you remember the presence of going under center at some point, some form in some fashion? That makes everything else easier. Running the ball, play action, screens. It just opens up everything else. And when you completely neglect that part of the game, you make running the ball so much fucking tougher because the defensive lines in the NFL are that much fucking better. The running back is getting the ball 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage versus getting the ball heading downhill 2 yards from line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a twofold issue of just a backup quarterback versus, you know, your proven elite quarterback. But I think there's just a way that the Bengals could be burying it faster, where they're not taking away from having that timing or complexity. There just feels like there has to be a more creative way to have it, you know, kind of work as a ramp up versus them. Stars are human players too, so the earlier the season it is, the harder it is for them to execute. So,
yeah, I mean that's all I got.
The only other thing I was going to add.
Go ahead.
The last thing I was just going to add was just the Luck Burrow comparison. I think honestly and that was when he had already been broken. Like you go down to the Andrew Luck injuries. Like I'm not as familiar with the Burrow ones, but I mean, there's like lacerated kidney in there. There's like some back, some shoulder, which shoulder's not good for throwing the ball. You got ribs in there. Like I feel like the benefit for Joe's has been the only real issues I feel like he's had on, you know, in terms of throwing motion with like arms was what was that, wrist injury 2 years ago?
Right, and that had nothing to do with the offensive line.
Yeah, no, I'm just more so saying just injuries breaking you down. Like,
yeah,
as much as it's going to take a while, I think legs are better for a quarterback, especially a guy like Joe, because you don't want the shoulder to be shot, or, you know, you don't want a back affecting him. You know, you're like, well, I mean, legs, like he seems like he'd be the type to find a way, even if he loses some power in the legs, where, you know, he's just adjusting the motion a little bit. Because I feel like that's kind of how Tom, you know, did it in his time. Is like, well, Tom didn't always have like you could see there's a little more what I would call it, pep or jump in his passes as he got older, because like, well, he needs a little bit more. to get it. Like, so it's not like it's a huge adjustment in the throwing motion, but it's enough where you're still able to produce, and it's not really legs. It's just you're still in the same motion. You're just kind of adjusting it in a way where you can still throw that same, speed with it.
Yeah, I think it is of note. I mean, I think Burrow is definitely injury prone. Like, there's no questioning that. But he's only had 2 injuries that have actually been like a direct result of the offensive line. But I also just think you just look at the total number of hits that he's taken, and that's just been extremely high. Like, within there, like, he had the knee, and then after that, he had the appendix, which, what the fuck you going to do about that? It was just the first week of training camp, and his appendix ruptured. And then after that, he had the calf, and that was him literally just fucking scrambling around. And then after that, he had the wrist, and that was literally him just throwing the ball, and it just snapped, whatever, and then toe. Like, obviously, the knee and the toe are the 2 only injuries that have actually been a direct result of, like, taking a hit, being sacked. So, I mean, he's had some bad luck in there. It is, like, whatever. It is what it is. We're rolling with Jake Browning from here on out. We'll see what they do. They go to the Vikings this weekend, play a backup quarterback there. Probably the most boring NFL game of the season, but I'm going to tune in for all 60 minutes of it.
I don't know, man. Sometimes those backup quarterback games, they get interesting. So,
yeah, it might.
So we'll see. I mean, Wentz is on one of those sides, brother.
Yeah,
we could be seeing something very interesting.
We'll wait and see how it all shakes out. But yeah, it's been a week, that's for sure. You want to get on to your Cleveland Browns, Norm?
Yeah, may as well.
Take it away.
So, I mean, obviously this week, if you're just scoreboard watching, it would appear that the Browns defense got destroyed. The Browns as a whole got destroyed. Offense put a little bit of points on the board. Really, that wasn't the case at all. I mean, this game was a pretty competitive game for the most part, to be honest. I mean, going into the fourth, it was 20-10, so the Ravens were starting to pull away at that point. But the defense in this game pretty much, I won't say dominated, but the defense was holding their own against one of the best offenses in the NFL for pretty much a full 3 quarters. Because the 2 touchdown drives the Ravens had in the second and third quarter combined for 28 yards. So, essentially, week 2, it's different special teams, but so we have the block punt, their great field position score, turnover, great position score. So, this week was the exact opposite on the Flacco side of things. Flacco really couldn't have been worse. And again, the numbers don't really say that, but just from an eyeball watching the game, it didn't really ever look good. I guess if we're gonna go look at the positives, Myles Garrett continues to be Myles Garrett. Another sack and a half. So the question
comes to postseason awards like that, but if Myles has 20 and the next closest has, let's go, like Trey Hendrickson led the NFL in sacks last year with 17 and a half. If the next closest is 2.5, 3 sacks away, yeah, I think he could definitely win it. I think at that point, voters will have enough common sense to realize who the real best player in the NFL is. But I don't know. You can't even watch a Packers game without Micah Parsons' name being said about 50 times and them showing him another 20 on the screen.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting to pose because, I mean, Myles has looked as good as he ever has. And that's not even just, I mean, the sacks obviously stand out, but I feel like in the run game, he's been extremely active so far this year, too.
How many sacks does he
and,
have?
And the thing is, 3.5. He's tied. There's 2 other guys who have 3.5. Landry, Patriots, and Granderson, Saints. I'm not as familiar with Granderson's game, to be honest. Brian Burns has 3. Byron Young has 3. Parsons had 1.5. But there's a lot of Packers on here, 1.5 above. I just think it's
I saw a pressures leaderboard today, and I couldn't believe that he wasn't on it. But he's leading the league in sacks.
I mean, I will say that doesn't exactly shock me because I feel like he's been taking advantage of when there's been like
opportunities. He's going insane and hitting home.
Yeah, because I mean, because he also leads the league in tackles for loss right now with 6. So that's what I mean about being active in the run game and screen game as well. Like, this guy's all over the place right now. It's funny because you look at Myles Garrett tackles. He is
close to it because, like, when you don't have the wins, that really hurts you whenever it comes down to, like, postseason accolades. Like look at
voters.
Like last year, the Bengals had the NFL sack leader, they had the Triple Crown, and they had a quarterback who had the most yards and most touchdowns in the league, and none of them got shit. Like, and it was because they sucked. They only won 9 games. All those other awards went to guys that were on winning teams. So I think that if Myles Garrett is going to get the Defensive Player of the Year award, he's got to either break the record or damn near be right there to break it.
Yeah, it's sad, but I agree. I mean, he would have to. I mean, I think the number for where it's like, I think 20 is the number for it's like, well, it depends on like you said, how many does the next guy have?
Right.
And then past that, I think to lock it up, it would literally be the record, which is insane. But
if he gets the record, I think it's in there.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 for 2 on multi-sack games.
All right, fuck, yeah. I'm getting college football and NFL mixed up. They're only through 2 games. I mean, he's on pace for, what, 19-20 right now?
I mean, he's been elite, and he is so fun to watch. I mean, just locking in on him on defense every time, just to see what move he's doing. Yeah, I mean, he is the definition of a defensive end, and I'm glad he's still around. But to go to the other trenches, the O-line issues for the Browns are starting to show as well. For example, DeJuan Jones is getting rotated out for Kevin Stefanski, quote unquote, heat. I know he's a big boy, but I don't know any other tackle in the league who is getting rotated in and out for heat. It's normally you're just out.
Has he been a little disappointing since his rookie year?
I mean, there was times where he was disappointing then, but I think the good was so good people ignored the bad.
And I also think he kind of exceeded a lot of expectations that year, too.
Right. From a draft capital, that's a top 5 line. Just, I mean, he had 10 carries, 61 yards. And, I mean, he ran like a bulldog. It's why, we talked about the Travion versus Quinshawn from Mason Graham all the way down to, I mean, if you even want to count Dylan Gabriel. I mean, he had 1 drive, didn't really have to do much, but managed it. I mean, I'm not really going to put too much stock into that. The Ravens didn't have the starters in and didn't really care. So, but the rookies that have got in have played well. I mean, Schwessinger's been an absolute animal. He's all over the place. And then Huntington, the undrafted free agent, I kind of talked about a little bit a few weeks ago. He's even been playing super well and running down on kickoffs too, which makes me laugh every time I see a big boy running down the field. But so yeah, I mean, I've been super impressed with the rookies. Obviously, the Browns are 0-2, so there's a contingent of Browns Twitter that is calling for the firing of Stefanski and Barry. But that just means football season has started.
It's just another season
so,
in
yeah.
Cleveland.
I mean, fire everyone. That's
So, I think for the Browns' perspective, like, Miles is a dog. You got your young guys that are showing flashes. You still have a really good defense that is going to be here for the next few years. So, there's a lot to be excited about, and whenever your expectations were already low kind of going into it. So, the Browns has been the Browns, like I've said to this point. Like, they just need to find a quarterback to lead the team, and I think that you guys will really start to see kind of just everything else start to elevate, and more wins will start to be tacked onto the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think the NFL has proven on plenty of different occasions that it doesn't take long to rebuild in the NFL.
Just get a quarterback.
It takes hitting picks and getting a quarterback. And this year,
look at the Commanders. Look at the Commanders.
They hit their quarterback, and they build a lot around him. I would say the infrastructure was solid. They weren't completely barren on terms of who they had, and then they added a bunch of veterans to kind of fill holes they had, and then it worked. It's it's shocking that guys like Bobby Wagner,
from finding themselves in the Commanders or in the Bengals situation where you got a guy that comes in and everything just immediately elevates.
The second round pick isn't just a throwaway pick anymore because of the same reasons. Their cap structure is different now where, you need to fill roster spots, and the draft matters because you need a guy that can stay on your team versus just having some guy, sit on the bench. Like, you need someone that's ready for, when you're paying all these guys that you could potentially have play on your roster. Well, the NFL, these guys played, 3 years of college, so that guy might be ready to play right now too and fill a role for you. So, and I think the Browns have executed, this year, obviously very well in the draft. So, going forward, I'm excited and very interested to see where it goes from there.
Oh, yeah. A lot to be excited about when it comes to the young players. Find that quarterback, a lot will change. On to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Another big win for Ohio State this weekend. 37-9 win over Ohio University. Balled out for the most part. I think we saw some red zone offense that had showed some struggles, but in terms of just moving the ball up and down the field, they had zero issues with that. I think they had 3 drives that either stalled with field goals. They got stopped in 4th down in the red zone. I think that was the main concern, I guess you could say, about Ohio State up to this point. But in terms of how the stat lines for the guys, Julian Sand continues the ball out, 25-32, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, one of which was a tip ball that was a little bit bullshit, but whatever, it is what it is. Bo Jackson, the true freshman phenom, 9 carries, 109 yards, 2 catches, 21 yards. Didn't get in the end zone. Fucked Hondo out of $1,000. Running back, James Peoples, 7 carries, 47 yards. Running back, C.J. Donaldson, 9 carries, 39 yards. Jeremiah Smith, 9 yards, 159 catches, 153 yards, 1 touchdown. Carnell Tate, 5 catches, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. Max Clare, 2 catches, 30 yards, 1 touchdown. That rounds out the stats for Ohio State. So, Norm, I got a rapid-fire question for you. I don't have this in the show notes, so I just want your opinion. And you have 5 seconds per question. I have 4 questions for you. You ready?
Shoot.
Through 3 games, who is your offensive MVP?
So far, or this game?
So, through 3 games. All games. 5, 4,
honestly, I think
3,
it's really insane.
2. Defensive MVP. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm going to go basic here. I'm going to Caleb Downs. I will throw an honorable mention to Arvell Reese, though, because I don't think
we'll explain. We'll explain at the end. We'll explain at the end. Don't get ahead of yourself. Calm down there.
All right.
Most disappointing on offense. 5,
4, 3, 2.
It has to be James People.
Most disappointing on defense. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Lorenzo Styles.
Okay. So my answers were offensive. I went Carnell Tate. Defensive. I went Caleb Downs with an honorable mention for Burrow Reese as well. Most disappointing on offense. I went Phillip Daniels. I think he struggled at times at right tackle. It was basically kind of splitting hairs with this one. The offense has been pretty good. Offense and defense has been pretty good. It's been kind of difficult on both sides. But for defense, I went Lorenzo Styles as well. So tell me, I was going to go,
At the end of the day, I thought he recovered well when, from both of the interceptions or some, tough plays in general, pressures and whatnot. I thought overall he did a good job at, recovering from them. When you said Tate, I was like, yeah, I don't hate that. Because I feel like he has been kind of the rock. Obviously Jeremiah is Jeremiah. But Tate's consistency, I think, through 3 games has, I think, been beautiful to see because I feel like it kind of feels like he is just taking the Emeka role. It's kind of obviously beginning of the year, that's what we're expecting. That's, and probably a little bit with an assumption because Ohio State receivers. But him just taking care of business and, doing great in that. I like the answer. But I think for me it's saying I don't think I think it's kind of a similar thing. It's kind of just defense that kind of goes in that. It's like, well, it's clearly Caleb Downs, but the fact we have to say Arbel Reese is because he's just playing so incredible.
They have behind him. They're going to have a big piece to replace on that defense. You talk about a quarterback of the defense. Typically, you see that out of a linebacker. Dude, that guy is moving guys around. He's starting on this side of the line of scrimmage. He's dropping back deep safety. He ends up on the other side of the line.
Are you truly not willing to draft one of those players in the top 3 to kind of have a callback to our conversation we had previously? Or top 5, I don't remember exactly where we said the peak for him would be. Like, he's that level, and to me, unless a quarterback comes out, not even out of nowhere, but, like, really starts putting it on, like, if I was the Browns drafting at 1, I think I would be taking Caleb Downs. Not even kidding.
Yeah, I left that game Saturday being like, that might be the number 1 draft pick in all the NFL this year. That, like, if you took Caleb Downs and put him on the Bengals defense right now, that defense is night and day different. Like, the things that he can he can notice, he disguises, just simply just being a leader of the defense, it's unmatched. Like, it's something that you can't find everywhere. It's one of those guys that you mentioned earlier. Like, it's just one. There's only a select few in the history of football that have been that way, and that is Caleb Downs, and he is 100% worthy of a top 5 pick bare minimum.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the thing is like, with all the talk we've had about this prospect's been disappointing, I've been expecting more out of this guy. Caleb Downs just continues to deliver, and somehow continually get better. Which is like, this dude was an All-American as a freshman. And he's still getting continually better. Like, that's where it's like, I would be loving if he stays in Ohio. The crazy part is I don't know what the Browns fans would do. I think the only reason they'd be okay with it is because he's an Ohio State Buckeye, but them going defense again in the first round next year, I think would maybe cause a riot in Korea.
Hey, you got 2 first-round picks, so grab Caleb in the top 5 and then grab Carnell Tate late. I think you'd be okay with that.
I would love that. Anytime you're adding Buckeyes to Cleveland, I'm with it.
Yes, sir. So what do you see out of Bo Jackson? Is it time to make him RB1? I think seeing him just hit the hole, it's different. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know how else to compare him to anybody else. But Bo Jackson carrying the football and hitting the hole, he hits it quicker than any other running back that they throw out there on the field right now. I think it's a point where he's flashed so much and he's played so well, you got to move him into that starting. And when I say starting, that doesn't mean like C.J. Donaldson may go out there for the first snap of the offense, but it'll be one of those things where you look at the box score after the game and it's like, oh, Bo Jackson had 16 carries, C.J. Donaldson had 9, James People had 3. Like I think you'll slowly start to see that trend where as the game goes on, he may not be the first running back. When I say RB1, not the first guy out there on the field, but he's going to start to lead the team in carries from here on out. And I think at this point, like, I'm sure Ryan Day and Carlos Lachlan, the running back coach, probably could see the talent that he had and that there was a possibility of him being better or the best out of the entire room. But being a true freshman, like, you almost wanted him to go out there and take it and not just hand it to him right away week 1. Didn't do a whole lot week 1. Really splashed onto the scene week 2. And then I think he just backed it the fuck up week 3. Where to the point?
I don't think that's a good idea. Like I don't think it's like
Right.
20 carries a game had the most carries, but the B side of that I would have is that I think I still want all 3 getting carries. Like if I'm seeing everybody get 5 carries in every game, and then whoever gets more from there, being game dependent, I think I'm with that, and I'm not generally the committee type, especially when it gets to 3. Like when it's 2, that just feels like it's college football. But 3 generally feels like it's like, all right, well, someone's just clearly not carrying their weight. But I do think there's enough differences in them that they kind of bring their own things to the table that it interests me to do that. Which is not something I expected coming to the year.
And I mean, like, we've talked about James Peoples and how he's been a little bit disappointing, I guess you could say, to this point. But, like, he had a good game on Saturday. He had 6.7 yards per carry. If you're getting 6.7 yards per carry, that's a pretty damn good day at the office.
That's where it's like, that's where I'm like, I don't want Bo to ruin our brains right now because of how many runs he's breaking off. Because it's like, it seems like he's just simply the home run hitter of the 3, and they're not playing. They're playing teams that are allowing more home runs because Grambling State, Ohio. As much as Ohio, I was impressed with, and I think is probably my personal favorite to win the MAC just based on the games I'd seen them play this year. But at the end of the day, that's not Michigan's front 7, or
right.
That's not Penn State's front 7 would probably be more accurate comparison. But yeah, so yeah, I think I want all 3 still because they're all bringing something enough that I'd like C.J. Donaldson. I think he's clearly the best short down back of the 3, and then I think Peoples is kind of the normal prototypical guy, and I think Bo's just an absolute home run hitter. Which not that's not prototypical, but in a different way where we're seeing him get a couple more catches. Maybe that's part of the game they get him involved in as well. To have him kind of be more in that Travion Henderson type of thing where it's like, yeah, we'll get you carries, but if we can get you ahead of steam, let's try to do that as well in the pass game.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I like keeping all 3 rotating in. Like you said, you kind of have them all 3 playing a different role that's out there. C.J. Donaldson, you're getting the tough yards for us whenever we need it. 2nd, 3rd and short, goal line, 4th and short, whatever it may be. And then Peoples and Bo, like, you are our premier backs outside of that. Just do your thing. And then Bo's just naturally, at least to this point, seems like he's going to be more of that home run hitter. That gives you kind of that explosiveness out of the backfield. So what did you see out of the offense Saturday? I thought that they looked fantastic. I thought the offense looked really, really good. But they stalled a few times in the red zone, which I think this game could have been more of a blowout than what it ended up being, a 28-point win. But I think that if you had a couple of those drives that you could have finished off, like there were 3 drives that they had there, that 2 of them they took field goals and settled for 6, and then the other one, I think Sayin got sacked on 4th down that opening drive. But there's been some talks out there across Buckeye country and just the fans and whatnot, and you kind of saw it a little bit on Saturday. Do you think that they could have where you go back to 2023 when McCord was a quarterback and Devin Brown was a backup, where Keenholz is playing kind of that running option at quarterback once they get into the red zone, just to kind of open some things up in the run game to make things a little easier? I, for one, I'm not always a huge fan of taking the starting quarterback off the field, but if you get into situations where you're having lulls in the red zone and you can't find creative ways to score just due to the lack of space once you get down there.
We're just bringing in another quarterback to run the Wildcat offense who could maybe throw.
But he's not going to.
It pretty much gives the defense, it gives the defense like, there's a 90% chance they're going to run here, versus when it's saying, it's like, you could still run a Sayin run. The probability, like if Keenholz run the same play, the probability of him, performing better with his legs is obviously higher. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of times in college, it's almost like, did he make the right read? And then the execution will come from that.
Yep.
So that's where I'm not a fan of those sort of things. I would just, my argument would just be, just give me under center in those situations, which I know they won't do, but it's like
they do it more than the NFL team down in Cincinnati.
That's fair. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I would just rather give it to C.J. Donaldson running downhill on a 3rd and 1 or something versus having some kind of cute QB run. I don't hate it as a mix-up. I guess I'm more so saying I don't want it to kind of become a crutch, because you see those happen where it's like, oh, we got to bring in the running guy now, and like, not saying that Keenholz is transferring in January, but we saw it with Penn State. Like, I'm not acting like that's why they lost to Notre Dame is because they didn't have Bo Pegrula, but I mean, they did depend on that run a little bit. Like, they had packages in there for him. So it's
and did we remember right? Penn State had a massive drive down there in the first half of that game where they didn't get into the end zone and they got stuffed on 4th down.
Yes.
Exactly. And I like your point there.
I mean,
I like your point there. You get into a situation like Keenholz is probably hitting the portal, and if you relied on that all the way up to you get to January 2nd to January 11th, like we just said, that's right around the area of the semifinal and the quarterfinal. That's a bad time to be losing a big part of what puts the ball in the end zone.
And the thing is like, I'm not in the room to really know, and they would have a better feel, I would say. So, I mean, if they're not worried, they're not worried, but it still relies on someone that you really shouldn't have to rely on. Like, Julian Sands right there. Just because we don't have a QB run where we have 10 blockers instead of 9, I mean, just trust. I mean, maybe it's we pass more in those situations than we'd run. I mean, I don't exactly know what the counter to it would be exactly, but it just feels like to me that it's like there's a better option there than just reverting to, okay, we're going to run our more athletic quarterback. Like, having that in play, I don't hate, but it's just more if it falls into a reliance thing where we're seeing it every single game.
Yeah, yep.
I'm not sure I like it,
Yep, I'm right there with you on that. And on a final thought for Ohio State, this has been also circulating across Ohio State fan base. Is there any reason to be a little worried about Brandon Ennis? We have not seen much of him at all to this point. He's had a couple good punt returns. I think he's a very reliable punt returner. I like having him back there. He's a guy that you know is going to make the catch and whatnot. Anyways, I understand it's hard when you have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate on both sides. Ohio State also probably has the best tight end room in all of the country. We've seen the tight ends make plays between Kazmarek. Max Clare just got in the end zone for the first time. Jelani Thurman's getting in there. They got the true freshman Nate Roberts that's out there seeing some time as well. So I don't think it's a knock on I don't think it's a knock on Brandon Ennis, like his ability as a player. I just don't think in the limited opportunities that he's ever going to get, I just don't think the opportunities have really been presented to him yet.
Exactly. And here's kind of my counter on why he's not exactly one I'm worried about. It's like when you're playing these other teams, your 1 and 2 reads, they get open. Like Jeremiah Smith isn't having trouble finding a way to get open, even if he's double covered against Grambling State, you know? Or there's going to be a coverage breakdown because, you know, they're just more worried about what we got to bring and they're not going to be as sound. So that's how it's easy to just throw it to Jeremiah, throw it to Carnell. And the thing is, it's not like I think this is the most yards Stan had thrown for yet this year. And it's it's not like there's been an insane amount of passing yards to go around. Thus far, like he threw for 347 this past week. 254 just to Jeremiah and Tate. So it's like there's not a lot of feeding to go after that. And that's not even counting Claire or any of the other tight ends. So it's like, or even Bo Jackson, you know, so there's the ball will be spread around more when you're playing a team like Penn State. And the issue would be more so, will he be ready when that happens? I mean, I believe in it because I believe in the Ohio State receivers. But games like that are when he's going to have to start hit his stride because it's like, all right, our 1-2 are taken care of. Or 1-2-3 if, you know, it's Claire. But I think he's still getting his feet wet, and I think they're still figuring out how they want to utilize, you know, him, because I think right now it's honestly just a little too easy to get to the 1-2 reads. And I know you could say, well, why aren't you, you know, designing something for Brandon Ennis? And I think you answered the question with I think the answer to the question is pretty simple. He's not Jeremiah, he's not Carnell.
Yeah.
Like
makes it easy when you got those two.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's kind of those things where it's like, this is how I feel like Ryan Day's in his bag right now, because it's like he's not overthinking that. Because I feel like in the past he'd be like, I feel like I really got to feed Ennis right now, or you got to be signing something to him, keep everybody fed. It's like he's getting punt returns. It's not he's not making an impact at all. You know, he's touching the ball. You just got to be like, hey, man, right now it's punt returns. Your time's going to come. Jeremiah and Carnell are going to eat right now. These dudes are going to eat on these little boys because that's who they're playing right now. But once it's your time, you'll know, and just be ready.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, exactly like what you said. Your first and second read against these teams that you are farly talented, then they're going to be there 9 times out of 10. So most of the time, he is probably not the first or second option. So he's not always going to be there against these teams that suck. And you got the Big Ten schedule coming up. You're going to start playing more talented players, better defenses, things like that. Brandon Ennis' time is coming. He's a great route runner out of the slot. Doesn't have a ton of top-end speed, or I shouldn't say a ton. He doesn't have the Jeremiah and Carnell Tate speed, probably, but he's kind of more of that route-running technician where you get him lined up on a safety or you get him lined up on a linebacker, and he's probably going to route that guy up. And when you get more competitive guys on the outsides, corner-wise, or you got safeties that are sliding over more towards Carnell's side or Jeremiah's side, they're going to be able to take them away a lot easier. So that's going to pose more opportunities for Brendan Ennis, but not only Brandon Ennis. I think just this tight end room that has been fantastic up until this point. So I'm excited to see where he goes. I think Julian Sand is, as advertised, a little bit better than I was kind of expecting up to this point. I think that back-to-back is a real thing. I think it's on. That is my expectation now. It wasn't my expectation coming into the year just because it's really hard to do, but I'm there. I'm ready to win another one. And they got the guys in the building to do it. On a final note, Norm,
Yeah, man.
you got any last remarks on Ohio State?
No, my last remark was going to be, I completely agree. I would say I've been demented from the beginning. I just felt like Sand was going to come in. He's even impressed me more than I even anticipated. And I just feel like they're humming even earlier than we may have thought they would be.
I just didn't want to put that on them. I didn't want to put that on them with them losing like 15 guys. I never doubted the talent one bit. But I just didn't want to put that on them. New coordinators, new quarterback, yada, yada. None of that fucking matters anymore. But these guys can do it.
Yeah, man. I'm completely all in. This team's ready to rock.
Let's get it. They got a big one next week. Bye week this weekend. Got a big one all the way out to Washington. If I remember correctly, I think Washington has one of the longest home active winning streaks in all of college football right now. I believe that number is 23. But do not quote me on that. Matt Patricia compared their quarterback to Kyler Murray. I know he's a fantastic quarterback, a lot of talent. We'll dive into it later next week. But obviously, first challenge of the year coming up for the Buckeyes next year. Freshman quarterback going on the road, never easy. We'll see how they respond. And for our last segment of the night, Norm's favorite segment, coming in with a 4-13 record through the first 2 weeks of football. 3 weeks, I apologize. We missed a week in there. Norm is standing in here for the 4-13 record. And Norm, before we get into the picks, what do you got to say to the people? Are you telling them to get on the bandwagon like it's been a rough few weeks? But, hey, I'm going to get my shit turned around, and I got some locks for you guys this week. Are you still telling people, hey, you might want to fade me because I'm not too confident. I want to see a little bit more out of these teams before I really start cooking.
I'm not a financial advisor, but I do really love this slate of games, and I do really like these picks, which inevitably means we're probably going to lose again. So I'll say that caveat, but I do really like this week.
It's all right, folks. It's all right. Norm's got every flavor of CTE there is out there. So take whatever he says with what it comes out. So let's get into the games. Number 17, Texas Tech going on the road to number 16, Utah. Utah taking the points, -3. Tell me why.
2 words, Derek Dampier.
Okay.
I think he's one of the quarterbacks that has actually been impressing this year. Texas Tech has as well. But I think Derek Dampier, while we're talking about Kyler Murray comparisons, I think there's some similarities there. Throws well, runs well, and at the end of the day, it comes to Utah at home. Kyle Whittington. They're I would say my original maybe I like them to win the Big 12 pick was Kansas State. I think I'm adjusting as a midseason. I think it's Utah. I think Utah is going to win the Big 12, and that starts at home against Texas Tech.
Got the Utes, -3. Next game on the docket, number 9, Illinois. +6 on the road, taking on number 19, Indiana. Norm is going with the Illini here. Does he know that he is going into the Fighting Kurt Signettis, who do not just beat ranked teams, they beat the shit out of them? Why are you going against Signetti?
Well, I think the schedule adjustments have a big part of that. Everybody's very excited about, how Indiana's looked this year. Mendoza's looked great. His brothers look good too. But the thing is they haven't played anybody. Illinois, you can view Duke however you want, but they went on the road and beat Duke and handled that. So, I mean, I'm not. I mean, I know it's a little bit different playing a conference game on the road, but they're way more battle tested than Indiana is. I think they're more prepared for this game. Illinois is a team that I liked as much as any other team. You know, we were talking about teams that brought back the most players. Illinois was on that list, and they're high up there. Luke Altmaier, I think he's a really good player, potential NFL guy. So at the end of the day, I like Illinois with the 6. I think this is going to be a close game. I'm not necessarily saying even Illinois wins this game because I do like Mendoza. But I think this one's a close one. I wouldn't be surprised to see a game-winning kick win this one, or maybe a late drive. So maybe that's what gets the hook. But I'm going to take Illinois plus 6.
Third game, Michigan State traveling to number 25 USC. Norm has taken the plus 18.5 with Michigan State. Aiden Childs has looked pretty good this year up to this point. Surprised a lot of people. He surprised me. Going against and taking Aiden Childs and company and not Lincoln Riley at home. Both, in my opinion, are a little bit fraudulent, but why are you taking Sparty?
I'll even start this with saying I think USC is pretty dang good this year. I like Jordan Maeva. I think he was great for UNLV. He showed some flashes last year towards the end of the year, and then he started off good this year. But I think it goes back to Aiden Childs. I mean, he's been a super solid player. I know this is a late night game, 11 o'clock Sparty time, going to USC. But I think Michigan State is a much closer team to USC than 18.5 points, to be quite simple. I think this is a close game. I think USC ends up winning, maybe even handily. But I just think 18.5 points is just a ridiculous number that is probably a trash line, as we call that, or a bait. But I will be taking the bait because that just seems like way too many damn points.
It's a lot of points. 18.5 is a lot of points. One weird part about this game, it is 11 o'clock for the East Coast, folks. So Michigan State also having to play the whole East Coast to West Coast time difference here. I don't think it matters as much whenever it's late like that. I think if you were to have a West Coast team come to the East and play like a noon game, I think that affects a team a lot more than a team going out West and playing a late night game. Nonetheless, Norm taking the Sparty plus 18.5 on the road at USC. For the next game, Jackson Arnold returning home, I guess you could say. Number 22 Auburn traveling to number 11 Oklahoma. Norm is taking John Mateer, Boomer Sooner, minus 6.5. Let me guess, you're taking it because you love Mateer.
That's a big part of it, but I think the thing that takes me over the edge is just Oklahoma defense versus Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold, his toughest test was Baylor. Baylor isn't exactly the defensive powerhouse. So with that being at home, I think their defense is better than Auburn's offense, and I think Oklahoma's offense is a little bit better than Auburn's defense. And just those little edges and everything, I'm going to take Oklahoma minus 6.5.
And if there's anybody who knows Jackson Arnold's deficiencies, it's definitely Oklahoma and Brent Venables. So I like that pick. Next one, the Florida Gators traveling to Miami of Florida.
Florida plus the 7 points again. Because if you could see what happened last week, the LSU, it really comes down to the interceptions. They literally had a pick 6. But I decided I'm not going to be a gremlin. I'm going to do the smart thing. I'm just going to go the under. I trust their defense to, keep it close to Miami for a portion of the game at least. Because they have that great defense. And then similarly, like you said, Miami's defense has impressed me. That USF game opened my eyes up a little bit. That defense is suffocating. There wasn't a lot USF had. The only issue would be is Miami scores fast, and I just don't think that's going to happen with Florida. So I'm going to take the under here, and trust that the Gators will keep this one close.
Love it. Next one, Tulane at Ole Miss, taking Tulane plus 12.5. Let's hear it.
Tulane, I think it's a battle between them or USF to get that Group of 5 playoff spot. And I think Tulane has a better opportunity with Ole Miss quarterback going down. Ole Miss just really hasn't looked great this year. I do like Arkansas as a team. We saw that last week with the late win for Ole Miss. But I feel like Tulane's similar range as Arkansas. So to have them have another full touchdown, the BY Jews coming into Ole Miss, I just like Tulane to make this a game, in-state game or not an in-state game. They're Louisiana South. It's all the same to me. I'm a Northerner. But no, I mean, I just like Tulane. Their offense is good. The defense is surprisingly better than I'd even thought. So I think they're going to battle with Ole Miss a little bit more than it seems the bookmakers are thinking here. So I'm going to take Tulane plus 12.5. The quarterback taking care of them last week. I think the Texans had the bad taste of pissing down their leg and losing that one to the Bucks. And I think that Texans defense is going to be the difference here. Will Anderson's an absolute monster. Daniil Hunter, another absolute monster. So I just think that Texas defense is going to carry him in this one. Stroud won't have to do too much here. It'll be a low-scoring game, but I think the Texans will likely win it, but we'll take the +2 for insurance policy.
Yeah, we need to get C.J. Stroud a win. It's been a little tough first couple games for him, so be nice to see him get back on the right track. I know he's kind of catching some shit on the timeline right now, so need the Texans to go find their first dub and get rolling with the season. Last NFL pick, only the second NFL pick for Norm this week. Broncos at Chargers. Norm's taking the Chargers -2.5, and I am honestly surprised this spread is only 2.5 now that I'm looking at this. I've been thoroughly impressed with the Chargers to this point. I think they have a great defense, very balanced offense, good quarterback, good weapons, a smart head coach. I like the 2.5, and like I said, I'm surprised it's just not more. But walk us through this one.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much that, which is where we talk about trap lines and things like that. But it just feels like the Chargers are kind of humming right now. And I mean, I know the Broncos kind of came off a weird loss with a dumb penalty, but at the end of the day, we've been talking about how, the Colts haven't punted, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the teams they played this year was the Broncos. So that Broncos defense, not great. I mean, holding them to field goals and whatnot. But if we're going to compare the Chargers and Colts offenses, I'm taking the Chargers by a large margin. So, I mean, in this one, and then when we're flipping sides, Chargers defense has been excellent this year. I mean, the Broncos, again, great offense, not taking anything away from the Broncos. This is really just a Chargers cosign of how much I believe in them. I think they're a sleeper Super Bowl team for sure, and I think they continually to prove that. And I think they're going to take care of business here and win this one by 2.5.
Yeah, honestly, this might be my favorite pick out of all of them that you have here. There was one other game. I don't think you submitted a pick for it, but wanted to talk through it a little bit. Pretty big game, at least in the Big Ten country and really across college football as a whole. Michigan travels to Nebraska. I think Nebraska, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say, is it Michigan favored by like 2.5 points?
Yes, and actually that might have just went down. It sure did. It's 1.5 now.
I was going to say, that game just feels kind of like a pick-em.
Yep.
But, yeah, I think if this was 2 weeks ago, I think Nebraska would probably be favored. But Michigan played Central Michigan on Saturday, so let's not get too awfully crazy here. Like, Central Michigan's not a good football team. But Bryce, you could see a clear difference in their offense. They cut a lot of shit after that Oklahoma game with just how they called plays, not really utilizing Bryce Underwood's talent. You really saw them kind of unleash it a little bit on Saturday. You saw them pushing the ball downfield, realizing his arm talent, letting him go out there and make some throws. And the biggest thing, I think he had like 115 yards rushing. you could see the ability that he can bring, or just the dimension that he can bring with his legs. So I expect them to really come out and have that be a focus and kind of just add that dimension to their offense against Nebraska. Biff, their interim head coach, came out and publicly said that Bryce Underwood obviously is going to have the green light to run again. So I expect some more QB runs. I expect some more when the play breaks down, seeing Bryce kind of scramble and extend plays with his legs, or scramble and may have actual runs with his legs. So I don't really know what to expect. I think I probably will take Michigan.
And the thing is I feel like Raiola's been good, but the problem is they haven't really played anybody since Cincy. And Cincy was a home game too, and they battled. So really, I mean, a part of me feels like this is Nebraska's time. And I think it being at Lincoln is massive. So I think if I was forced to pick, I would say Nebraska, but I wouldn't love that at all. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's easier to ride the tried and true hand of Michigan just beating down Nebraska, and Nebraska losing to a competent team like they have been for, the past 5 years or so, or basically since they've entered the Big Ten. So with that being said, I think I would lean them. It feels like I'm getting the extra year of experience with Raiola. Also, it's kind of not trusting Michigan's game plan. That Oklahoma game has me just kind of messed up on how I view Michigan at this point, I feel like, because just felt like they really had the training wheels on Bryce, and it felt like they didn't necessarily need them that much. So, I mean, if the game plan's that, I think it's Nebraska for sure. But I think they let it sling it a little bit. I think it might be Michigan. So that's where I'm like, I don't really know. That's why I'd probably lean Nebraska just because of them being at home. But that don't mean nothing to me.
Yeah. I want to see Michigan go and play well, or I want to see their offense play against a legitimate team again. We've seen them, but I can't remember who the hell they played week 1. And then we saw them play really well against Central Michigan week 3. So any team can go out and beat mid-major. If you're a Power 4 team, you should be kicking the shit out of mid-major teams, especially if you deem yourself as a ranked team. So I'm ready to see what Michigan is against a legit team, to see if they actually have made those strides that we saw last week, given the opponent that they played. But nonetheless, like, going into Nebraska, that stadium is going to be rocking. Matt Rule is going to have his team ready to go, and I think it all comes down to, too, like, how well Dylan Raiola plays. I think it's going to, like, can he move chains in critical third downs? Can he sustain drives? Can he make the throws that he needs to make to keep his offense on the field and keep their defense off the field? If they can do those things, I think you can see Nebraska winning in a really, really, really tight one. But I don't know. I think Bryce Underwood is a really good quarterback. I think that he is kind of starting to figure some things out, and they're taking the leash off of him a little bit. So I think his talent's going to start to take over a little bit from here on out, and you're just going to see a different style of Michigan offense as we get further into the season. Other than that, Norm, anything on that game, or are there any others out there, whether it's college football, NFL, or even high school football, for that sake, that are intriguing matchups that you're kind of on top of your mind?
I take that back. I forgot about the Rams. So I guess that's one thing I just want to point out from a just league perspective. The NFC West, intriguing for sure. 3-2-0 teams to start. 1-1 Seahawks.
It's going to be a battle.
Might be interesting. Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of people have kind of fallen off the Cardinals. I mean, I know they played they played the Saints and Panthers. But I think they played with their food a little bit against the Panthers. And that was a lot closer than what it needed to be. But I think the Cardinals are a little interesting here, and I think this week we'll see. But I don't know. It's early. We'll have we'll have a lot of good games. I'll say that. That's what the NFL will produce. What games they'll be, we'll see. I guess I got one. The Rams play the Eagles this week. That'll be the game of the week. So I'll see you on Fox for that one.
Is that a 4:00 game?
It is at 1. So I probably won't be tuned in myself, but
Other than that, thank you again for another great episode.